Man, what a wild week of sports we just witnessed last week. Thank you everyone for joining us on this week's podcast. Episode 25. We've reached a quarter of a century, guys, in the episode marks. I think that deserves a short round of applause. Okay, and that's it. But of course, I'm Ross. I'm joined by Jalen and Blake, and this is the fourth and long podcast. Today, we have quite the slate of topics. First off, of course, we're going to talk about the Wild fight as Wilder gets absolutely dismantled. XFL power rankings and recap. Also, Blake debuts his new favorite XFL team. We got some hockey news talking about Alexander Ovechkin making history. We got a big time anniversary of one of the biggest events the sports world has ever seen, and one hell of a story coming out of Toronto. And then also some baseball news. Madison Bumgarner recently revealed to be living a secret life, and Jose Altuve did not have a good start to his spring training. But Blake, we're going to start the show off by talking about that Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder fight. You want to get us going with this one, please?
Absolutely. I think first things first, we got to talk about how they both entered the arena. Tyson Fury, of course, getting carried by several men on a throne. I think that was pretty.
He's actually a woman.
Speculation is that there were tiny midgets under the throne carrying it to help support the women carrying.
Really?
Thanks.
I didn't hear all
this.
I didn't hear
Jen
all
was
this,
one of the midgets, is why.
That's funny.
I'm 5'10", Ross. I'm not a midget.
Okay, not even 6 foot. Weak.
I thought Deontay Wilder's I thought his getup was pretty cool too, with the all black everything. The face mask was looking sweet.
Well, it looked good, but we'll get to that point in a sec, though, being that it might not have been the best for his performance, or at least according to him.
Might not have been the best call in the long run, right? Who would have known that could have been a deciding factor, possibly? So to the fight we go. Fury came out absolutely dominated from the beginning to the very end. I don't think anybody expected it to go the way that it went. Everybody kind of figured that Fury might be the better boxer technically, but just that one punch fear of Wilder, I don't think anyone really thought that Fury was going to be the one to end it as quickly as he did.
I don't think so. That guy, he came out swinging, and he was just balls to the walls for all 7 rounds that this fight lasted. It was really similar to the 12th round of their first fight, how he was just all out after he got out for the knockdown, and then he just kind of went all out and pushed the fight. And that's exactly what he did for 7 rounds over on Saturday night.
And you know what? I think coming from that first fight, taking that huge shot and getting up from that, I think that worked wonders for his mentality for this fight. He took the hardest shot that Wilder had, got up from it. What's left to fear at that point?
Exactly. He's already taken the worst that Deontay has.
A couple highlights with this fight. He dropped him in the third. It was a huge drop. I do believe, was it the second or third round? I think it was the third round. His Wilder's eardrum was already popped.
Eardrum popped.
Yeah.
And it was visibly bleeding in the corner.
It was bleeding bad. It was bad.
And then the other thing that was crazy was you could visibly tell that he lost his equilibrium. He couldn't really balance. When the exchanges started happening in the next few rounds, you could just tell that something was off with him. And the announcers went in great detail with talking about how when you damage, your eardrum, your equilibrium is lost a little bit, and you're not going to be able to have the same type of balance that you normally would have.
Man, it was that balance, but also that after that first knockdown, his legs were stiff.
Right.
He was not moving well.
Right. And so, I mean, with this fight, Fury won every single round. There was nothing up for discussion. The only round that might be up for debate is the second round.
Yeah.
Because I do believe Wilder outstruck him in that round.
He did. That was the only round in which he did do that.
Right. And so another thing too is just the eye test, man. Looking at this fight, Fury, he beat the heck out of this guy. I mean, seriously. At one point, he was licking the blood off of Wilder. I mean, I remember we were debating on Saturday night. Did you think you really made contact? I personally think he made contact.
I think he did. When I first saw it, I thought he was just doing the whole weird tongue flippy thing like Tyson Fury would do. But that guy was literally licking the blood off of Wilder.
Yeah,
I don't know. I
that's
just watched the
strange.
video today, and it looked like his tongue was close, but I don't think he actually touched.
The madman. No matter what, though, that's just some scene right there.
Yeah, I wouldn't put it past Fury is all I'm saying.
I wouldn't put anything
No,
past Fury.
But Ross, you want to go into the breaking news today that involved Wilder and Fury?
Man, wasn't I was kind of surprised about this because after the fight we saw Tyson Fury stating that the next fight to make, in his opinion, is Anthony Joshua, and he wasn't really thinking that Deontay Wilder would invoke the rematch clause that is in the champion's contract. But that's exactly what happened. Today, like of just a few hours before we started recording, Wilder is invoking his rematch clause, hopefully for a summer trilogy fight. And the thing is, why I hate about this is I guess he had the whole 2 days to think about the excuse, but the excuse he came up with was awful. He's blaming. So as you mentioned during the walkout, he was wearing like that whole get up and costume and all that stuff. Wearing a big one for Black History Month. And it was around a 45-pound costume with the batteries and all the gear and stuff. He said, but he's blaming the loss on that costume that he wore out to the ring. It said it weakened his legs before the fight, and he never really had them. And I think that's a joke. I think that's an awful excuse, and I think that's just I don't understand that, man.
I don't
is he really
think
blaming that?
I don't think it's the biggest. Like, to be honest, I get it. Like 45 pounds, that wasn't the best idea. I don't think you could blame the entire loss on that. I think you could definitely say it played a part. You could definitely say it played a part. I don't think it was the biggest part possible. If he wants to go with an excuse, I would definitely go with the eardrum popping and lost himself.
Yeah,
I think, in my opinion,
I wouldn't do a 3-minute walkout with 45-pound gear to ruin your fight.
That wasn't smart. But I think he might not have thought of the equilibrium thing, the African eardrum popped as much. So I think he more meant it as, and I'm not making an excuse for him, but I think he more meant it as that weight plus then losing his equilibrium. His legs were already going to be weaker than they already were.
Mm-hmm.
And so it made him more wobbly than he would have been if he would just walked out with just the mass as normal.
Yeah.
But still, terrible excuse.
Terrible excuse. Let's be real. Just say that you got beat and get better.
No one's going to diss you for just admitting that Tyson was a better man that night. No one is.
I mean, seriously, I think that people would look at that a lot with a lot more respect,
right?
You know,
to be honest,
if you just man up and accept that, yeah, in this fight I got beat and I got beat bad. If you just come out and say that and accept it, that makes you look so much better in the public eye than just trying to make these excuses. Even if this excuse is something that happened and affected them, it still looks bad no matter how you put it.
Yeah, honestly though, I think today with today's fans, there's really no way to give anybody, to please everybody, because in the ring he did say the better man won today, and people were getting mad that he said that, and so now that he's saying this, people are getting mad about this. So it's like there really is nothing he really could have said to not piss people off, because people were pissed when he just came out straightforward and said he lost. People were still mad.
No matter what you say, sports fans are awful, awful hypocrites, and they're all fickle, and we all are awful people. No matter what.
And they all lost a lot of money too, so they're going to be pissed.
That's even more mad. The interesting about this thing, I think we could have all seen coming, especially after his corner threw in the towel, kind of against Deontay Wilder's wills. He's going to be making some personnel and strategy changes to his team before the next fight. And I'm interested to see on how that works out for him. Obviously, he needs a strategy change because whatever strategy he had did not work in that fight, and he didn't like what his personnel was doing in his corner.
I think he needs a new defensive boxing coach.
New defensive boxing coach?
Yeah, his defense is terrible. Well, his defense has always been terrible, but it's always been that way kind of because he wants people to feel like they can just loosely throw at him to allow him to get that big shot off, because it's kind of hard not to see the guy you're fighting have his hands down and you're landing shots and you not, kind of relax a little bit and put your hands down too. So I kind of get what he goes for when he does that, but against a technical fighter like Fury, that's just not going to work out.
Exactly. But all in all, Honestly, I thought it was a superb fight. I was highly entertained by that. And I would just like to point out that I was almost 100% accurate with my prediction. I said
Lord
eighth round
Jesus, Ross.
TKO. I'm just putting it out there again. I know you guys heard it all,
Like
but
the
I just like
20th
to
time.
reiterate that I'm a genius. Thank you very much, and I deserve the respect a genius deserves.
You
And
were
that's
the
all.
most
That's all.
luckiest person that walked this planet on Saturday.
All I'm saying is that me and Blake have both also made pretty much almost exact guesses for a lot of events so far,
Yeah, but you didn't gloat
and
like I
none of
did.
us have exactly. None of us has gloated except
We
you.
might have to start keeping track after this one because it's getting
Hey,
ridiculous.
I'm okay with that because we can just track how many times I'm right. But from that, we're just gonna roll on into our XFL Week 3 recap, everyone. We're going to start this things off, of course, with the power rankings. We're going to be going from the 8th team all the way up to the number 1 team. And there is some shakeups after the events that took place this Saturday and Sunday. But the one thing that did stay constant, though, is I still have the Vipers as the worst team in the league. Of
Trash.
course, they had uh, they made almost a 180 with their game against the Roughnecks if we're talking offensive firepower because they did put up 27 points, which was unheard of. They only put up 12 there in the first 2 weeks. So good to them, but they grow on offense, but their defense is still awful. And the thing why they're not in seventh is because the seventh team, the New York Guardians, beat the Vipers. I know the Guardians are awful. Matt McGloin, awful. Their play calling, awful. Their defense, not good. Not quite awful, but not good.
Almost there. One more week.
It's getting close. It's getting close. But the Guardians did beat the Vipers, and so going off of that, I still am going to put the Guardians at number 7 above the Vipers. Number 6, we have the Seattle Dragons. This is a team that have the pieces. They have the potential to be a good team, but so far they haven't put together, and their offense isn't clicking the way it should be. They're not as good as the top 5, but they're not as bad as the bottom 2. So they're in that nice middle ground right now, but they do have a chance to improve it as we still have 7 more weeks left on the season. Break into the top 5. I know Jalen might be happy about this because they were bad last week. They were great this week.
I mean,
The
I still
LA
don't agree with this
Wildcats.
though.
Oh, I know. I wasn't going to give them too much credit. But the Wildcats, they absolutely smoked the defenders in the game that I think almost no one saw coming, besides Jalen, just off of hopeful optimism.
No, I saw it coming because we're better.
Okay.
And just because it was a personal game, Rashad Ross made this a personal game, and I feel like the team came out and
Can you explain that,
exposed.
please?
Rashad Ross was originally signed and drafted by the LA Wildcats. Right before they did the little preseason scrimmages that they did, pretty much a day before, the Wildcats ended up trading Rashad Ross for another receiver. I forget who the exact receiver was. It might have been McBride. I'm pretty sure it was McBride. But they traded those two just straight up, nothing for nothing else, just those two switched. And Rashad Ross that day said, watching the Wildcats versus DC game, thank God they traded me. So he made it real personal real quick. And then from then on, he continuously just kept saying how personal it was and wait till this week to see him
And
come out
then
and shine
they got
against them.
smoked.
Just a little recap of how his game went. He had 6 targets, 1 reception for I think 16 yards, and they lost.
That's not good. That's not
We'll
a
get to
good
that
look on
later.
his part. See, but above the Wildcats is the team they got smoked by. It's the Defenders. But my reasoning is that the Wildcats still only have that one win, and their first 2 games were very unimpressive. While the Defenders' first 2 games were impressive wins, but this most recent game was awful. But I will be giving the benefit of a doubt for 1 week, just 1 week. We'll see where we are
They
next
should
week.
be the bottom team in the league.
Okay, let's not go that far, please.
Burn
The
the
top
stadium down. They shouldn't be allowed to play anymore.
You know, I think that might be a little extreme, Jalen. But number 3, we have the Dallas Renegades. I think they're one of the best 2-1 teams. They're one of the more complete teams, and they have had a good couple of games. They had a solid game this weekend. Their offense is well balanced, and I think that's really going to help them. But number 2, is who I had number 3 last week. This is going to be the St. Louis Battlehawks. They're now the best team in the East after the Defenders lose. They're both 2-1,
You're
but
welcome.
the Battlehawks the Battlehawks have the bigger point differential, so that's why they get the edge. The Battlehawks are a very well balanced team, and Teamu is one of the better quarterbacks in the league.
I'm proud of
And
you for pronouncing that right this week.
hey, I learned. We're professionals, man. We learn and adapt. We overcome. Believe, achieve, dream, whatever the hell, that stuff. But of course, we all know who the number 1 team is. They were arguably the best team last week. They are without a doubt the number 1 team
The
this
LA
week.
Wildcats.
No, the Houston Roughnecks. The Houston Roughnecks are your number 1 team in the XFL through 3 weeks. Their offense is absolutely ridiculous. We'll get into it more, but that MVP Jay Walker and Cam Phillips duo is lethal. The one thing I was worried about that I said going to last week was I was a little hesitant about their defense, and that's one reason why they're number 2 and not number 1 last week is your defense. I think they still have some ways to go, especially giving 27 to the Vipers, but the offense is so overpowered. They are the Kansas City Chiefs of the XFL.
Long story short, you were wrong.
Last week, yes, I was wrong. But what do you guys think about that? The Houston Roughnecks are the Kansas City Chiefs of the XFL because they have the quarterback who is high-powered, best in the league, great speedy wide receiver, and a decent defense that just does enough.
No, I don't think they're the Chiefs of the XFL. Not even close. But I do think that they're the most
you did have
entertaining
PJ
team.
Walker throwing that little nice sidearm touchdown pass last week, like Patty Mahomes would.
But you need a lot more pieces than just a speedy receiver, that can catch 3 touchdowns a game. Don't get me wrong, that's amazing. That's great for him in the XFL, but it's not the amount of weapons that the Kansas City Chiefs have at their disposal, and he is not on the same level that Patrick Mahomes is, even considering the talent disparity that's probably between the 2 leagues. In terms of your power rankings,
hard to compare anyone to Patrick Mahomes.
In terms of your power rankings this week, I actually I agree with you pretty much. There's really nothing else that I gotta point out that I think is really
Jalen,
too bad.
we know why you don't, but Blake, at least you're seeing this with a clear mind, very non-biased. Thank you for being a true professional.
In my non-biased opinion, I think the only part I would change is I would put LA over the Defenders just based off of how bad the game ended. It wasn't a close game. It was a 39. So you think
that one 30-point win is it equates to 2 wins instead of just one?
And the dismantling of what was considered the face of the XFL.
Which is something, yes, that's something I really want to make a point
I feel like that's what puts them over the Defenders, even though it is only 1 win to 2 wins, is how they dismantled them and made them
that's
they look unstoppable.
Yeah, you can make the argument for sure. But from 8-1, we got the Vipers, Guardians, Dragons, Wildcats, Defenders, Renegades, Battlehawks, and number 1, we have the Houston Roughnecks. Cruising on into our recap of each game. Then we're going to start off with the Roughnecks at the Vipers, which was the first one. This was the Vipers' first home game. They're actually playing in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers Stadium, and they may look decent. Like I said, the Vipers actually had an offense this game. They had their first offensive touchdown ever scored by backup quarterback Quinton Flowers, which is someone that I know Jalen is a big fan of Quinton Flowers, just like the entirety of that Vipers fan base, because I hope you guys are able to watch this, but everyone was booing anytime the starting quarterback Taylor Cornelius threw an incompletion. And then they were all, as they should. Everyone was chanting for Flowers, and when he finally got in, they lost it. And when he scored the first Vipers touchdown ever, they went ballistic.
Honestly, and he actually had a pretty decent game.
He had a good game. Nothing to discredit him. For whatever reason, the Vipers are trying to do this 2-quarterback thing. That's not working. I say just stick with Quinton Flowers. Yeah. Especially in the red zone, when you have a more athletic guy that can break out of the pocket way better than Taylor Cornelius.
And if you have no idea who Quinton Flowers is, go ahead and watch his South Florida highlight from his college days just to kind of get acquainted to what he plays like.
He's pretty good. But as I alluded to earlier, that PJ Walker, as I said, the MV PJ Walker, to Cam Phillips matchup is the deadliest combo in the XFL. Obviously, this is the best quarterback to wide receiver pairing that the XFL has ever seen. PJ Walker, another great
Wow.
game. 24. I'm not wrong.
This is like the most biased.
Am I wrong though? Am I
I
wrong?
know, but you giving the only your guy only giving your guy a nickname. If you're gonna come out with a nickname for your guy, you got to give a nickname for every single top player for every team.
Nope, you come up with a nickname for your own guy.
All right.
PJ Walker, 24 for 36, 306 yards, another 3 touchdown game, no interceptions, very clean with the football, and he had that one rushing touchdown. I hope you guys got to see that. If you guys didn't get to see this rushing touchdown, please go look it up because he turned nothing. He turned a huge loss into a touchdown. He was in the shotgun position, snapped the ball gets past him. He's like 10 yards in the backfield, picks it up, evades a couple of guys, runs down the sideline for the touchdown. Great play. Very athletic guy. Then is the wide receiver Cam Phillips, 8 catches, 194 yards, and all 3 touchdowns that PJ Walker was throwing for. Their first touchdown in the game was an 84-yard completion to each other to open up the touchdown scoring for the Houston Roughnecks. Later linked up for a 27 and 17-yard touchdown. Great game, really exciting, but Houston does have to work on that defense.
Definitely. I think that's their biggest flaw, and I think the hardest thing they could do is run into another top offense like they have. I think, in my
But is your
opinion,
offense that could compete with the Houston Roughnecks right
I
now?
mean, we're gonna have to see after next week because I feel like this week we kind of saw what the XFL might start looking like on a normal basis.
Mm-hmm.
I think that there is a good chance, I want to say exactly 100% chance, there's a good chance that Flowers would have played the whole game that they might not have won that game. Just based off of how he ended up playing and just, you could tell like after he went in the team just seemed like they were more energized to play. They wanted to win.
But
With
then
the other quarterbacks,
they put Cornelius back in, and everything just deflates.
It just dies back down. And
I don't understand that coaching decision. I think
feel like
roll with Quinn.
Yeah, I feel like it's just right now at this point you have to try everything, and I think this was kind of like a last tryout. Like if you want your spot, we're gonna give you both a certain amount of tries. After that, one guy's taking over, and I feel like that's what they did, but that cost them the game, or at least a chance at winning the game.
Yes. The next game on Saturday was the nightcap, and that was the Renegades at the Seattle Dragons, and the Renegades dictate this game 24-12. Well, as one of the things I mentioned earlier in the power rankings, is that the Renegades have a very balanced offense. You had Landry Jones being fairly productive. He had 3 for 41, 274 yards, 3 touchdowns, but he did have the 2 interceptions that did make the game a little closer than it had to be. If Landry Jones could eliminate the turnovers, honestly, he's a top quarterback in the league. But then coming off his 2 touchdown game last week, yeah, Cameron Artis-Payne, 13 rushes, 80 yards. That's a respectable performance, especially when they're spreading the ball. In my opinion, though,
if Landry Jones is going to be throwing for 41 passes a game, he needs to be throwing for over 300 yards a game. Just in my opinion. Fair.
Also, no quarterback should ever be throwing for 41 attempts in a game. Maybe
at all, especially with that run
what
game.
Landry Jones really has to do, especially after we saw him against the Wildcats last week. Do you think he will ever be able to run a 5-second 40?
No.
Can we give him 5.5? Because I swear, when he was running for that first down last week, it looked like a grandma with a walker needed to be walked across the street, man. It
took him a minute to get there.
It was bad. It took him a minute to get there, but also took the LA defense a minute to even catch up to him. So I don't know what the hell is going on with that.
I feel like it's just kind of.
I think Tom Brady and Peyton Manning could outrun Landry Jones right now, and one of those retired. I think he still can.
And that's what his nickname is going to be. Since I know it was a name mess up, but that's his nickname for the rest of the season until he picks it up. Is Laundry Jones.
Laundry Jones.
Dirty Laundry Jones.
Oh boy. But then also as a receiver, going back to the Renegades, Donald Parham, 5 catches, 101 yards, 2 touchdowns. Great game as a receiver. Not as good as Cam Phillips, but great game nonetheless. The Dragons quarterback Brandon Phillips has
also Parham, or I don't know how you pronounce it. I will have that.
Parham.
Okay. He's a tight end, I believe. So he's definitely one of the top tight ends in the league. Even though Cam Phillips is a receiver, and I feel like you want to keep bringing up the Roughnecks.
Yeah, no, Parham is he is the top 10 in the league. He's a big guy, but he has speed. I think they clocked him at 21 miles an hour is top speed with the big touchdown over the weekend. And
Yeah.
to see a big dude running down the field like that, that's scary. That's
Yeah, definitely.
it's not okay.
That's
He's
not
a
really
big
you don't
time
really
red
want to
zone
meet
threat
him.
as well.
Yeah, he's
Yeah,
what I believe 6'6".
yeah.
I believe what they said he was.
And
And he's a
you
pretty
see a
big
dude
dude.
who's 6'6", filled out well. I'm not
Yeah.
sure his weight, but he's filled out,
I
and
think
he's
it was
running at
around like
21 miles
240,
an hour.
248, 250 something, I believe is what they said it was.
That's not okay.
Not at
Come on,
all.
man.
That's a scary sight.
That's not okay. um. Okay. But see, Brand Phillips, he's been up and down over the last couple weeks. He's kind of settling this week. Saw 62% completion. 62% completion percentage. 204 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. That's good. That's decent if you have a team backing you up. But for a team like the Dragons that aren't complete and are clicking, is the quarterback, he's going to have to do better than that.
Definitely.
Uh, See, but this next one, as we mentioned earlier, Blake, you are going to finally introduce to us your XFL team. And I think there's no better way to introduce that than breaking down the first game from Sunday's action.
Yep, I finally was able to indulge myself in some XFL football, and I could properly sit back and watch
Do we
each
need a drum
game.
roll before you announce your team?
If you guys wouldn't mind, yeah, that'd be great. And the winner is the St. Louis Battlehawks.
Why they went to
Yeah.
win a mediocre fan?
I had to go with the St. Louis Battlehawks because I think they have a pretty interesting team. They have a fun offense, pretty balanced. They can run the ball, they can throw the ball. Teamu doesn't turn the ball over very often. He does turn it over, but not very often. And he is a playmaker. He can extend the play like a Cardale Jones, like a PJ Walker, and he can also sling the ball too. So I just think that they're a dark horse, I would say, in the XFL this year. I
I
don't
really
think
think
that
so.
I don't think that they're gonna get as much hype as like PJ Walker and the Roughnecks would get, or even if the Wildcats catch fire since they're in LA. They're gonna be really highly touted if they ever get fully rolling. But I like the way that this team is kind of coming together and they're starting to put together an identity. It looks like. Let's get into this game a little bit, huh?
See,
So this
before
was
you break down the game, can I just talk about what happened before the actual action started? I
sure,
just want to
yeah.
come out and say that I am a Houston Roughnecks fan, but I think that St. Louis Battlehawks have the best fans in the league. I really felt bad for these guys because, of course, we had to remember that St. Louis Rams, the Rams organization, led by the owner Sam Kroenke, ditched this fan base in back 2015. The last professional football game that was played in St. Louis was on December 17th, 2015. So it's been over 4 years since they've had a taste of professional football action. And those fans were so disrespected when he left. And I felt bad for them. And I'm so happy they have a team now to root for. I thought it was a great move by the XFL when they first initially announced that they would have a team in St. Louis to go off of that fan base.
Definitely.
But you guys all had to see these this group of St. Louis fans, they had a pinata of Stan Kroenke, the owner of the Rams, and they beat that pinata with a steel chair and ended up decapitating said pinata. Then once they decapitated said pinata, they were waving his head around and all celebrating like a bunch of madmen.
It was
God bless
amazing.
him. God bless him.
God bless the Battlehawks.
Oh, what a scene. What a scene. Those fans deserve it. Blake. Um, Guardians, I know you're watching this game closely. The Guardians is all three of their rostered quarterbacks playing this game. What was going on with all that, man?
I just think they have yet to find continuity within their offense. They, unlike the Battlehawks, have yet to find an identity that they can really trust on a week-to-week basis. It's been very hot and cold, and for the last 2 weeks, it's been extremely freezing, I would say, for in terms of their offensive production. Um, I think McGloin, he came in really confident, and I'm not really understanding why at this point, because he was kind of touted as being the one of the more experienced guys that's played in the NFL for meaningful
Experience of
snaps.
losing.
I mean, he's won some games, so let's not totally trash the
Preseason
guy.
games.
He's
Okay.
won regular season games. You need to get your facts straight, buddy.
I know. I'm just a hater.
But no, McGloin, needless to say, he is not impressed this season. And to me, personally, I don't think either of the other quarterbacks looked very good either. I mean,
Mm-mm.
Luis Perez, he had the lone touchdown for the Guardians. He was the only one that kind of put a little bit of offense together. Went 4 or 5 for 80, completing 80% of his passes, 39 yards.
He
But I
was just
mean,
into the last little bit of the game. And
right.
they just had a touchdown to maybe feel better about themselves going to the next week. That garbage time stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. Idea here
Mm-hmm.
for Matt McGloin's official nickname for the season. We're going with Matt McGroin shot because he's trash.
I'm okay with that.
All right, Matt McGroin shot is official.
Oh boy, Blake.
Um,
Yeah.
I don't know how to recover from that one.
No, just move on.
I'm
So-
just gonna come up with random nicknames while we're going throughout the show. I got
I
this.
appreciate that, Jalen. Appreciate
Luis
that.
Perez is Luis President.
President
So-
of what? Losing?
As of right now, yes.
Okay.
Some other key points with this game. Definitely the third down conversions did not help the Guardians in this game. They were 2 of 10 on third down. 1 of 3 in the red zone in terms of scoring production for touchdowns, and 1 of 2 in goal to go situations. Not
Yeah.
very good numbers.
You can't tell me a team that will go 20 that will be converting third downs on a 20% clip, converting red zones in red zone possessions a 33% clip, and then only 50% conversion clip on goal to go situations. That is literally the recipe for losing. You can't win the game by not. You have to convert third downs, and that killed them. That absolutely tanked them this game.
Yep. Teamu, he didn't really have to do too much this game. All he had to do was kind of play the Alex Smith role from the 49ers and
turn the
Chiefs
ball over.
days. Just don't
get your
turn the ball over.
completions.
Hand the ball off, and just run your offense. And I think he did a really good job of just running the offense the way that it was meant to be run. I mean, the Guardians kind of killed themselves in this game. They really, McGloin throwing an interception. They really just didn't do too much, and they didn't have to. They didn't have to go outside of the box of
No.
creativity in terms of what they're going to do on offense for this game. And I think that in the long run that's going to help them. The more vanilla you can keep your offense on a week-to-week basis, the more you're going to keep up your sleeve, later when the games start to mean a little bit more.
100% agree on that one.
And then
they
last
did have that great run offense that they could just depend on, and if they could if they could build off this run offense, that's totally going to help them the rest of the way down the season.
Yeah,
I
looking
think
at the stats of the game, you definitely don't see a 29-9 win. It doesn't look like that. Just looking at the straight up stats.
No.
It's just purely efficiency. I mean, I keep forgetting Christine Michaels on these guys' team.
Right.
He was a good running back in the NFL for a little bit. Not anything great, but
that's
he
one
was
of
successful.
the funny
at the
things
NFL
is seeing
level.
these guys, these names are like, oh yeah, I remember him from the NFL. He's on the XFL now. That's kind of cool.
Right.
These names are all peppered over the XFL rosters.
Yeah.
I think no doubt though the most exciting point in this game was the kickoff return for a touchdown.
The first kickoff return in XFL history. And I love it because it was done on the trick play too, nonetheless.
Right, ran the reverse on the return for 84 yards and a touchdown.
What better way to have the first kick return in XFL history be ran off a trick play? The way that's their whole intention with this kickoff is to make them more exciting and to get these bigger plays. And that's exactly what they got out of that one. And I think that is exactly what Oliver Luck wanted to see. He's probably smiling from ear to ear when he saw that go down. Good for them to see that rule kind of taking a turn now. We saw bigger returns this weekend through all 4 games.
Yeah.
And that's of course, this is just making football more exciting, which is what the XFL intends to do. And they did a good job with that.
Yeah, I have no complaints so far in terms of the kickoff. I think that they've hit the nail on the head with that and kind of eliminated the big collisions that they used to have, and
It's
they
kind of hard to
haven't
get
really
big collisions within 5 yards.
right, and they haven't taken the excitement out of it either, as you can see from this past weekend.
No, they've done with their rule changes so far. I believe they've done a phenomenal job, and I really want to applaud them for that. It's been working out well.
Yeah,
Definitely.
no controversies so far that we can really talk about.
No, shocker in the NFL. If we're talking NFL through 3 weeks, we'd already have like a list of 30 things that went horribly wrong for them. But
That's very true.
that was a solid game. It was so nice seeing football being played back in that St. Louis dome, and they did a great job packing that stadium. That first bowl was pretty filled, and
Pretty
big.
sure it was around 28,000.
That's damn good. That is damn good. Good for the XFL and good for St. Louis. But Jalen, you're talking about this earlier. You're kind of giving your bias a little bit. So, well, to be honest, I was giving my bias on my game, but it's
Yeah,
time for
yeah.
you to let your bias shine through and talk
All
about
right.
the last
All right.
game
I've
of
been
the
waiting for
XFL Week
this.
3. Give it to
The
us.
last game, you got to say the best for last this week. We have a little bit of excitement going on with a little bit of a shocker coming out of LA. We had the Defenders
Nation.
versus Wildcats game. And I have on the notes, Ross, who in their right mind was expecting this 39-9 thrashing of DC. And I'm not in my right mind, so I exactly expected this to happen. It was an amazing game. Cardell Jones got exposed through 4 interceptions. It was
No
amazing
touch.
to see. Beautiful. No touchdowns. They looked like crap. He got pissed off. He was pushing people, complaining, looking at the refs for help. And the refs were like, "You're not Tom Brady. We're not helping you out." And so he laid on the ground for most of the game, getting sacked a bunch of times also. Yeah, it was beautiful. It just, the hype train was dismantled. Cardell Jones has been taken out of the talks of being the face of the XFL in 1 week. Who imagined that 1 week and Cardell Jones is now not even considered a top quarterback in the league anymore off of one game. Let's see. Also in the game, only one positive run. Game with 200 total yards and only one touchdown. That's beautiful. They had to kick a field goal and they scored a late touchdown, which meant nothing, and
It
they're
was
being
garbage
laughed
time.
at. Garbage time touchdown meant nothing to anyone except Cardell.
Didn't mean anything to him, man. He didn't even get that one.
Yeah, no, he did not. But
They
he
just
was happy to at least see that they scored. But honestly, it was a large step forward for the Wildcats after having two very subpar offensive game and defensive games in the first 2 weeks against the Roughnecks, and the second week. Breakout game. I'm going with it was beautiful. Just a little bit of bias here. It was beautiful.
No, honestly,
Josh
I thought it
Johnson.
was great because this was a game where all three of us were actually watching together.
Yeah, they
And
actually
we're
got to
seeing
watch
all
it together.
this go down in horrible fashion. It was like a train wreck, but you can't look away. It
Yeah,
was really almost intriguing the way that this game played out.
yeah. It was definitely awesome. Josh Johnson was 18 for 25, 72% completion rating, 278 yards, 3 touchdowns, 0 turnovers on his part. Wide receiver Trey McBride, who was the one who was traded for the Rashad Ross, if you want to call him a receiver anymore.
Man, I wonder who won this trade.
McBride had 5 receptions, 109 yards, and 2 touchdowns. I believe he would have had more if they didn't get a cheap shot taken on him in the middle of the field. In my opinion, DC tried to get a little dirty, and they took a shot to the back of his head.
That was bad.
They were mad they were losing.
See, the hit didn't look heavy, but it was just a really awkward one.
It wasn't that it wasn't a heavy hit. It was the guy who originally grabbed him threw him in to the guy who hit him in the back of the head, which the hit wasn't going to be that big. But when you throw a guy into a hit, it doesn't really matter how hard you hit him; it's going to hurt.
It's a bad impact.
Yeah. There was a +5 turnover margin, which is amazing. It was,
that's a recipe for winning, isn't it? Having forced 5 turnovers and not giving up one yourself.
Yeah.
That's a decent game, at least, right there.
You're gonna win if you have a +5. If you don't win, then you need big changes, like firing your defensive coordinator in the first week. Just saying. We're just saying we did that, and it worked out to perfection.
I think the biggest takeaway from this game, though, is that it was a great game for the Wildcats. Bad game but there were two big losers in this game. There was, of course, the DC Defenders that got embarrassed after being a 2-0 team and looking like the best team in the East, looking like a championship favorite. But the other loser for this is the XFL because Cardell Jones was a guy that was being advertised as the face of the league as we're going into the season.
Definitely.
And now, yeah, Cardell Jones, the face of the league, throwing for no touchdowns, 4 interceptions, and having an awful performance, and not looking like the quarterback who's supposed to be the face of the league.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's gonna look bad for the XFL, but I think that's kind of the thing you like to see is because I think it would have made it look a little bit worse if PJ Walker and Cardell Jones literally just thrashed the entire league all season. Because then that argument of the only problem in the XFL is the quarterbacks stays strong when it's the only two teams with good quarterbacks, the only two teams winning every single week. So I think this kind of
you think the parity is a good thing in this case.
Definitely. I think it's the fact that
be healthy.
Because I feel like a lot of people looked at it as, they put a quarterback, actually I think he is their most experienced quarterback in the league other than Matt McGloin.
At least when it comes to winning, because before, as a starter, before Sunday's game, since high school, Cardell Jones was undefeated, as we've mentioned before, 11-0 in college, now 2-0 in the XFL, and now he's 13-1. And what's bad now is that before this game, he had a 4-1 interception touchdown to interception ratio. Now it's 4-5 in one game, totally upended his season. And I'm interested to see from a mental standpoint on how he's going to come back next week and perform.
Yeah, no, definitely. It'll be great. I enjoyed it, obviously, because I'm an LA fan. But
Sorry, I guess Jalen's kind of cutting out there. I think he was going to say something like, as an LA fan, that he's happy about something. But I'm not sure. I am not sure about that one. Jalen's cutting out bad. But we're just going to keep this thing cranking because that is our XFL recap of the week. Blake, congrats on picking a team finally.
Yeah, man, it was a fun weekend of watching these games. It was pretty entertaining. The only game
because of course you were probably the most skeptic one out of us three, going to the XFL season. Are you sold on the product of the XFL now?
I think it's still a little early. I'd like to see a little bit more consistency from all the teams. But so far, I think it's been pretty successful, I'd say. I mean, it's entertaining. Each week it's entertaining for me. And yeah, I'm going to keep watching. So I think just that alone proves that it's pretty successful.
Very nice. Welcome back, Jalen.
Thank you. My internet cut out for a second. My Wi-Fi disconnected. But I am back.
Tell.
But
okay.
I just want to point out that
please get the hotspot on.
Yeah, I'll get the hotspot on. I got you guys. But I just think it's even just in my workplace. I work in an office. Just every single week, I come in on Monday, and there's another extra person who last week wasn't talking about the XFL is now talking about the XFL.
It's growing, baby.
Yeah, people who don't even watch NFL football talking about the XFL. People who originally were talking trash about the XFL watching the XFL. And so it has been amazing to see, and I hope this keeps going.
I'm happy it's doing well because I just want more football. I think everyone should wish success on these new leagues. I was sad when the AAF disbanded because I liked just more football, but I just want this to work out so I can say that we can have more football. Also, maybe more importantly, say I was right that it was going to work out.
Definitely. I think one of the first signs that it was going to work out is more of the NFL players showing presence,
up. I think, man.
That too. And then the fact that NFL players are showing up to show support for games and they're actually mentioning each other. Like it's not like it's like AAF, NFL never said anything about it. No. And XFL, I mean the AAF never said anything about the NFL for the most part. And so the fact that now it's like the XFL, it's not a taboo thing in the XFL to mention oh, this guy played in the NFL, or this guy's stats in the NFL,
No,
or oh, he looks like this guy from the NFL.
it's almost encouraged. In
Exactly, it's
fact,
almost
Well,
encouraged. And
they're
then
going about it a completely different way this time. And think about how
exactly,
much money they're putting into it. They have Vince McMahon. They have the faces behind the league with Andrew Luck's father, Oliver Luck. They have everything in place to be a legitimate league. Not only that, but also entertaining as well. I mean, the AAF. I mean, which channel would you catch that on? CW31 or some crap? Like,
nah.
what's that
Hey,
even
the
going to be
XFL,
on?
they're
You
on
know,
ESPN, they're on CBS, they're on
ABC.
Fox, they're on ABC by ESPN. They're in the four biggest football companies you can watch because maybe the only thing they're not on is NBC. But besides that, if you look on Fox in the NFL season, you're going to find football on Fox. You look on CBS, you're going to find football on CBS. You look on ESPN, you're going to have football on ESPN. If you
Right.
look on ABC, that's where all the big time college football games on. All these four stations are highly recognizable and
mhm,
are on every cable package across the country. Of
And
mhm.
course, I don't use the
just to go
cable.
into
I
detail
use
too, with the Roughnecks and Vipers game on ABC that averaged 1.9 million viewers. It also peaked. It says between 4:45 and 5 p.m. Eastern time with 2.5 million viewers, a little bit
Wow.
over that actually. And with Sunday as well, New York Guardians and Battlehawks on ESPN that averaged about 1,473,000 viewers. And it peaked with about 1,640,000 viewers on a Sunday. Pretty good numbers, I think, for the XFL.
everything, all the analytics and stuff like that, it's all pointing upwards. And I just want to see this league grow. But if we're
And
going to,
the
yes,
last thing I
Jalen.
want to say about the XFL is the one thing that they're doing that the AAF and a lot of other companies and other sports that are trying to, start up have failed at is that they're capitalizing and fixing their mistakes. As XFL, whatever they said, oh, the problem would be telecasting, or where you gonna stream it to. They found an issue to fix. I mean, they found how to fix that issue. The talent, they pulled people who weren't making NFL teams and they made it appealing for people who were third, fourth strings in the NFL to come be starters in the XFL. They pulled people straight out of college who didn't make a team straight out of the draft. They pulled them in. And so it's just, I feel like they're pulling the mistakes that other organizations have made and they're fixing them. And then the new ones that are arising, they're fixing them as fast as possible to keep people interested.
I agree. They're doing a great job on that. Transitioning over from the XFL, we're going to move on into hockey. Hockey's something that we don't mention enough. Thank you, Jalen, for putting that trash on all of our screens. Screw you. But let's talk about let's not talk about the Knights. Let's talk about one of the greatest hockey players of all time, in Alexander Ovechkin. Over the weekend, he finally reached 700 career goals with the goal against the New Jersey Devils. He joins just eight other people, or he's now top eight all time in scoring. Just seven other people have reached that 700 goal mark. He joins names such as Wayne Gretzky, Gordie Howe, Jaromir Jagr, Brett Hull, among other people. And now he's eighth in goals scored. And this is a more of a, I guess, one of the bigger hot takes and opinions I've had for the last couple of years now. But I believe if we're strictly just talking about a shooter and the talent is a shooter, I believe that Alexander Ovechkin is a better shooter than Wayne Gretzky.
I'm not gonna say that. I'm not gonna piss people off.
I will. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with pissing off Oiler fans. I'm okay with pissing off the Kings fans. I and also just old hockey fans. I'm okay with this. Alexander Ovechkin is a better shot than Wayne Gretzky ever was. If you had Wayne Gretzky playing in today's league, he'd be good. Of course, he'd be one of the top players. But if you had Alexander Ovechkin going back into the Wayne Gretzky's era, when the goalies weren't good, when a 800, when they were trying to get like a 750 save percentage, now in the modern day, if you get less than a 920, you're bad. So
Yeah,
he would, if he went back, he would pick these goals apart. He would destroy them.
I
And
do believe.
I can't say the same thing about Wayne Gretzky. I
I
don't think
say
Wayne Gretzky would be as good as Alexander Ovechkin in the modern day hockey.
I say Ovechkin is definitely probably a more efficient scorer than Wayne Gretzky was.
Yes, at least we can agree with that. All I know is that Ovechkin is a sniper. And big congrats to him for making it to the 700 goal mark. Obviously, he's going to have a lot more. He did more than he did. He scored in more than just hockey. Him and his wife announced that they're having a second kid. So congrats on the sex.
Wow, nice transition, Ross.
Good for him.
That's one way to put it. That's
Another big time hockey thing that happened over the last week is that we had the 40th anniversary of the Miracle on Ice, and that of course is when the young college, the U.S. national team made up of college players went out and beat the Red Menace in one of the peaks of the Cold War. This game wasn't just a hockey game. This was probably the biggest political sports game in the history of sports. This game had it wasn't the U.S. hockey team against the USSR hockey team. This was America against Russia. This was capitalism versus communism. This was democracy versus an authoritarian regime. And this game inspired hundreds and thousands of people. Not to be more patriotic, but this is a game that inspired the next generations of Olympic skaters for the U.S. team. And this was one of the greatest sports moments. I think this is my favorite sports moments of all time. And it was just a remarkable game. Great movie, by the way, too.
yeah,
Miracle
I would say
was
hell of a movie.
great movie.
Catch
For
it if you haven't
a
seen it.
amazing sports moment. And God bless those players as we beat the hell out of those dirty communists.
And they were hosted by the Vegas Golden Knights, by the way.
Hey, Jalen, I'm sick of you. We had this good patriotic thing going. Then you bring the trash is the Vegas Knights. Okay, no, we don't need that kind of negativity on this show.
We don't need your negativity and your 0-3 streak coming into our podcast.
The Sharks suck, and I'm okay with it because it's the only thing I can do to stop myself from crying every night.
High draft pick.
Yeah, hey, they got number one draft pick this year for Barclay Goodrow. Congrats to them. Let's move away from that. This whole trade
That sounded
period
like a
has
really
been.
sad sigh.
I'm surprised you could tell. How about a better hockey story? Over the weekend, we had a very rare instance of emergency goalie playing in a NHL game. So for those that don't know, each team has their starting goalie. Then they have their backup goalie on the bench. But in rare instances, like what happened for the Hurricanes this weekend, they have an emergency goalie. So each team, all 31 teams, have an emergency goalie that is normally like a member of faculty or staff, and they work at the arena for the games. And so if one team's starting goalie goes out and their backup goalie goes out, very rare, but they'll bring in this emergency goalie. They're not expected to really do much because they're like beer league hockey players, retired players, and stuff like that. They're expected pretty much just to be a placeholder. In this instance, we have 42-year-old Zamboni driver David Aries make some big-time plays for the Carolina Hurricanes against the Maple Leafs in Toronto. This was a guy that was getting ready to get on the Zamboni for these first intermission, go make the ice all good. Then he started getting texts from his friends and stuff like that saying, "You're up."
And
And
it's a great way to find out.
right?
See, that's one positive way of using social media to find out something before you're told.
Okay, let's not get into that because that was awful.
Yeah.
I hope everyone probably knows what we're talking about. I don't want to get into that. That's not a good look for anyone a part of that. Media sucks. We can all agree on that. But this is a guy that stepped in with over 20. He was in the game for over 28 minutes. He took 10 shots. He let the first two go in though. But to be fair, the first shot got in. That was a hard shot. He was screened. It would take a great goalie to make that save anyway. The second shot was off a rebound. It would take the best goalie in the league, such as Marc-Andre Fleury. He could probably make that save. So I don't blame him for laying the first two, but then he made 8 solid saves over the next 20 minutes, and he was the first star of the night, and he was now the oldest player or the oldest goalie to win a game in NHL history. So all around, That's one hell of a story. That
Beautiful to see.
I think one of my favorite parts about this is that the Canes are now selling shirts with his name and number on it, and half the royalties go to him, then half the royalties go to a organization of his choice.
Nice.
Great move by the Hurricanes all
Great
around.
move. Yeah, a guy that's a Zamboni driver comes into a game and wins it for you. You give him some royalties on some T-shirts.
Oh, please. I think he ended up donating to. I think it was some organ. I think it was a cancer organization.
Hell yeah.
But great for him, man. Before we wrap this thing up, we're going to talk a little baseball real quick. As we mentioned earlier, Madison Bumgarner going by a secret alias. What is this? So, breaking news was reported over the weekend that Madison Bumgarner secretly performed in rodeos during the month of December under the alias Mason Sanders. He competed in at least 2 of them, and he won one of them, taking home a whopping $26,000. Obviously, he needed that money because he didn't just sign a huge contract with the Diamondbacks.
I mean, Mason Sanders must have been the one who was playing last season because that was definitely not Madison Bumgarner.
Ooh, Zinger.
Yeah,
that's a good one, Joe. Not bad.
Thank you.
He's just a salty Giants fan too.
Yeah, that too.
This is crazy. Of course, was it last season, 2 seasons ago? He had that quad accident that kept him on the DL for quite some time. So Madison Bumgarner, a great pitcher, one of the best offensive pitchers of all time. He actually has the Clayton Kershaw has thrown, or the person to hit the most home runs off of Clayton Kershaw has been Madison Bumgarner. Fun fact for all of you guys. Kind of crazy. But this makes it different. What is really a priority? This is a guy that is going out quadding, doing some dangerous outdoor stuff, going to rodeos while under a secret name, so teams don't find out that he's doing this.
If Josh Gordon is getting suspended for weed, he should be getting suspended for doing extreme sports.
You know, that's a take. That's crazy, and honestly, it's kind of cool though that he's doing stuff like this.
I guess.
You're just salty. It's okay, buddy. And then I think my favorite thing to happen so far, of course, everyone now hates Astros.
The Astros
are a garbage organization. So is Rob Manfred. Screw all of them. I hope that only bad things happen to them. And bad things
I hope they lose every game this season.
Well, yeah, the Astros using a camera in the outfield to steal signs. And just now, since spring training started, they're actually literally stealing signs.
They're living up to their name.
They're the signs. They're literally stealing signs. There were 2 gentlemen in one of their spring training games with signs. It was about their cheating. It's bad mouthing them. And I'm not mad that if the person the Astros sent out to collect the signs is probably just some intern trying to do the job, and she looks super scared anyway and embarrassed. But the Astros organization is literally stealing signs in the crowd now. You cannot make this up.
Ross, on the over-under, are you gonna take the over-under on how long it takes for a fan to bring a trash can and start banging on it to a Houston Astros game?
Man, I took the over on it. I think it's 84.5 hit by pitches that the Astros players are going to take.
Over or under on the 30 games?
30 games. Oh, I'm taking the under. I am hammering that under. Please. Game 1, their first away game. Or I can't imagine because when they play in Oakland, because their division, they play in the same division, so they're going to have plenty of games in Oakland. Oakland fans are known for having, especially that right outfield, a lot of drums, a lot of vuvuzelas, a lot of cowbells. Someone's bringing in a trash can for that. Guaranteed.
Someone's bringing trash. They should have one of those bands that play with the trash cans and stuff play in the back. They should have them play during the 7th inning stretch.
If the A's fans do not bring in green and gold trash cans to the game, I will be, as an A's fan myself, I will be embarrassed. But that has to happen. I cannot wait for that. Also, besides them literally stealing signs, Jose Altuve. He took his first. He was up to the plate for the first time today. He was booed tremendously when he stepped up to the plate, and of course, in his first at bat of spring training of the 2020 season as well, he was hit by a pitch. Hammer the over, everyone. Hammer the over. Hammer the over. It's going to happen, and screw them all.
Yeah, definitely. And Ross, then we have some MMA news coming out today.
Did we?
Yeah, we had the fight announcement.
Ooh, that's right. That's right. We had cringe champ, Triple C, Henry Cejudo. Did you know he won a gold medal?
Did you?
I'm sure. No, did you?
I don't think he did.
Oh, you sure? I was real surprised when I never knew he won a gold medal. Like he doesn't tell anyone.
He doesn't really show it.
No, not at all. But we had the cringe champ, Henry Cejudo. He got the fight he was asking for. He is going to be fighting Jose Aldo in a legendary matchup. I wouldn't call Cejudo a legend yet. I think he's one of the top pound for pound fighters in the company. I think he's underrated. But Jose Aldo is an absolute legend to the sport. That's going to be a great fight. Not a lot of people are happy about this. A lot of people thinking that Cejudo is skipping out on some of the other top contenders and going after Jose Aldo. Blake, what do you think about this one? I think it's a great matchup.
I definitely can see where the majority of hardcore MMA fans can be upset with this matchup, but just looking at it in terms of matchup and stylistic, what they're going to bring to the fight, I think that this is an extremely interesting fight. They're both going to come out and they're going to be swinging hard. I think Aldo surprised everybody with how well he looked at 135. Just judging by the pictures that we saw leading up to the weight cut, there was a lot of backlash with him moving down another weight class. Everyone thought that he would, not perform as well as he would at 145, that he's draining himself. And personally, I thought that he beat Marlon Moraes in that fight not too long ago.
Which is something we should have mentioned in our Bad Judging podcast, which you guys should all check out on Spotify and YouTube. Great content. Also, you should check out the quality you might be hearing now. All of us new mics, and we're also having our face cams on YouTube now as well. Please go check it out. It's great.
But yeah, so I just think that this is not as terrible of a fight that most people have been making it to seem. It's a prior champ that's been not just a champ, but a guy that was, looked at as one of the pioneers of the sport, really, especially for like lower weight classes. It was like when MMA was first getting huge back in the earlier 2000s or so, it was Jose Aldo for lower weight classes. It was Uriah Faber, and then Dom Cruz came in a little bit after those two.
And Showtime.
Of course. But Showtime's 155, so he's a little bit bigger.
Middle, around the middle-ish weights.
Right. But regardless, I think that this is still an interesting matchup because it's still a guy that holds a lot of weight in his name in MMA, and it's gonna be another kind of stripe added to Cejudo's belt, so to say. I think if he can take out Aldo, that'll be DJ, Demetrius Johnson that he's taken out. He's taken out TJ Dillashaw. He's taken out Marlon Moraes. Now he's going to take out Jose Aldo potentially. What else is a Hall of Famer? Then it's the real test starts. Then it's like the Peter Yans, the Aljamain Sterlings, the Cody Garbrandts if he ever gets back up there.
The younger
those guys. Yeah, then it's on. Like you were fully entrenched in the 135 pounders.
Mm-hmm. I'm just happy to finally. I like this fight, but it's going to be nice to finally see Cejudo just defend his title because it's been a bit.
Well, he was injured though, so I mean, you can't really give him too much grief for that.
That's fair.
So.
That's fair.
True.
But he's an exciting fighter. I love that. His last fight against Marlon Moraes, back was it last June. That was a great fight, and it was really exciting. Cejudo is a great fighter. He's fun to watch. That dude is a freak athlete.
I think one more point to make too with this fight. Just look at it in terms of the numbers. Like this is going to be a title fight, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
This is going to be a title fight. So they need a name if it's not going to have the most interesting story. Because Cejudo, he's Triple C, he's the cringe champ, but he's probably still not the hugest draw. He's still kind of building himself up. If he beats Aldo, that's going to get some people's attention again. That's going to get him
be a draw after that.
He'll be a bigger draw for sure. I hope he gets to that level. And then that's when you can, fight that winner of Peter Yan and Aljamain Sterling. That's when that money is going to be, looked at as more necessary. Now that Cejudo will have a bigger name if he wins, This is a big if, which I think he will. We'll get to that later.
Great challenge. It's going to be a great challenge.
We'll get to that in
yes,
a
this
later
will be,
episode.
of course, this will be a part of our UFC 250 preview show.
But I just think that it's the right call for right now.
Definitely. I'm totally on board with you on that, Blake. But honestly, I think it's great news. A lot of fun news from this past week and weekend, and even just today on this new week. But with that being said, I want to thank you guys so much for joining us here.
One last thing. We can't forget about.
Oh, that's right. We're starting this, man.
224. First of all, was today is Mamba and Gigi Day, or as everyone else is calling it, Mamba and Mambacita Day. It's a sad but happy day, honoring Kobe Bryant and Gigi Bryant. Very sad, but exactly happy, and kind of like a celebration of life ceremony for them today, held at Staples Center. Sad moments, happy moments, some fun stories.
Shaq was funny as hell.
Yeah, and we get another Michael Jordan crying meme coming around soon.
He even acknowledged it. I thought that was great.
Yeah, I think that was funny that he finally acknowledged it. That was amazing.
That was the first time he's ever acknowledged a meme, hasn't it?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the first time he's publicly acknowledged that meme. So that was amazing. And, I think it should be a national day now. I mean, there's multiple technically. You can make that 28.
Man.
You can make that 224. You can make. There's a couple that you can make though, but it's a great day just to remember them. Remember the positives of it. It doesn't always have to be a sad thing. But in honor of that, we are having a new thing to where we do a motivational quote at the end of every podcast. It's going to be Jalen's thing. Yes, it will be my thing. I will be saying the motivational quote at every podcast. And in honor of it being Mamba and Mamacita today, we're going to end with a Kobe Bryant quote. And that quote is, "The moment you give up is the moment you let somebody else win."
Great quote, man. That is powerful as hell.
Yes,
you mind if just for today I throw in one quote?
Go ahead. Let's do this.
Kobe Bryant quote as well. "Are you the same beast, but a different animal?"
What the fuck does that mean, Kobe Bryant?
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us this week. Of course, this has been the 25th episode of the Fourth and Long podcast. You can catch us out on YouTube and Spotify now, and Twitter and Instagram. Everything's going to be linked. Everything's going to be accessible. You are going to want to tune in.
Anchor. Yeah.
You can Anchor, of course. Of course, our great sponsorship and Anchor that you guys all heard at the beginning of the show.
They do put us on Spotify, but if you don't want to have to go through the middleman to get to Spotify, just go to Anchor. Just go straight to Anchor.
Exactly. Thank you, Anchor. But everyone, Blake, thanks for your insight as always. Congrats on the Battlehawks.
Yep, let's go Battlehawks. Let the festivities begin. We'll see who ends the season on top in the XFL.
Jalen, congrats on the Wildcats for getting their first win in big fashion.
Hell yeah.
And congrats to me for once again being the fan of the best team in the league. Go Roughnecks.